Looking back, I was able to work in I had my fingers in emergency management, some type of emergency management this is my 34th year in fire service. In 2010, 2008, 2010, I can't remember the time, First Nations were evacuated and there was no consultation. We wouldn't have First Nations leadership in the emergency operations center I worked in. We'd have, at that time, it was called INAC, and they'd come in and speak on behalf of the nations. And I remember thinking, this is very strange. And there was elders who wouldn't evacuate this one community, and INAC was insistent that we sent a team with BC Wildfire and police to evacuate these elders. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if they don't want to go, we can't legally make them.
We acknowledge and respect the Indigenous people on whose ancestral territories we work and play, whether the land is unceded or ceded. Your relationship with this land and your culture is one we admire wherever we are. We are committed to truth and reconciliation through regular, meaningful actions. Fire Chief Paul McCarthy leads a volunteer-based rural fire service with a wide range of hazards, which include an upstream mine, highway, log home operation, floods, and wildfires. In 2017, the area faced a direct hit from some of the 272 wildfires which impacted the region. Chief McCarthy is a non-Indigenous member of the WLFN leadership, and he serves in dual roles as the Emergency Program Coordinator of both the Williams Lake First Nation, and he's the Fire Chief at the 150 Mile Fire Department. Both are on the eastern edges of the city of Williams Lake in British Columbia, where you will find all fire departments are volunteer-based. He has served in various roles during emergency operations with partners in interior British Columbia during wildfires, floods, and landslides, where we worked recently, and luckily I got to sit down with him in February 2026 and have this conversation. Welcome to the Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast. I'm your host, Tim Conrad, and my guest for this episode is Fire Chief Paul McCarthy. He begins by telling us about his role.
I'm the Williams Lake First Nations Emergency Program Coordinator. I've been with WLFN for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And Williams Lake First Nation is it's a joy coming to work every day. It's one of the most progressive, forward-thinking organizations I've ever been a part of. And coming to work is basically, it sounds cheesy, but it's almost a gift.
Looking back over the last few years, tell us which emergencies have affected Williams Lake First Nation.
Prior to me starting with Williams Lake First Nation, you can go back to really like the Mount Polly breach was in Williams Lake traditional territory, and that affected Williams Lake First Nation greatly. The 2017 wildfires, WLFN, the landscape here changed after that, and we're still experiencing the challenges from that. Then the 2020 landslide or flooding and landslides that happened with the big atmospheric river reset. Last year in traditional territory again, we had the Chilcotin River landslide, which blocked the Chilcotin River for a number of days. A few smaller events, a couple of heat wave events we activated a cooling center for, some events close to home. One of our IRs was not significantly impacted, but impacted by the Williams Lake River Valley Fire in 2024, and things of that nature.
Yeah. So quite a mix, right? Like
Absolutely,
quite lots of variety there, yeah. It certainly has been challenging for this nation. I've worked in this area a lot, and the damage is everywhere. As I was walking in this building, you could see it all around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very, very obvious. So, so what's that impact been like on operations, and how has that adjustment been made?
I would say, just even recently, anytime there's a small fire or something that looks like a fire, the community gets really activated or agitated or worried about fire. You see a fire down in the hayfields or even small little rank 1, rank 2 fires in the area. People are really, really reactive to that. Mm-hmm. The building back from the flooding in 2020, it's been an ongoing process. The challenges with dealing with disaster financial assistance, the 2 levels of government and the rules around that have been a challenge. Prior to me getting here, and we're still dealing with that today. the challenges under the new Emergency Disaster Management Act in the 2024 landslides. That was a really good learning experience for us. And so, yeah, it's an interesting challenge. You've seen WLFN adapt, and I've been here for 2.5 years, and we've actually been able to grow our team to support the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think, can you pop out some of the lessons since you've arrived that you've...
The lessons since I've arrived, really, when I first started, I hit the ground running. I was really jazzed to be here, really excited to serve the community, and get out and just learn from people. And if I was going to bet on a population to survive an apocalypse, I would bet on the First Nations community, hands down. The sense of community, strength, and looking after one another has been, you just really see it day to day being in a First Nations community.
Yeah.
There's a Shuswap word, Knucwentwecw, which really one of the elders, who she's on Chief of Council, Anne Louis, brought that word forward, and that's a spirit of collaboration, the spirit of helping each other. That is something that's really guided the entire program since we've been here. And the desire to be inclusive and not just work on looking after Williams Lake First Nation, but the region. And everyone benefits from that lens of collaboration and inclusivity.
I certainly see that in the work that I do in this area, that we call them WLFN. WLFN will be at the table, right? They're there, they're part of the community in every way possible. So we spent time together in the Emergency Operations Center last summer.
Yes.
And so let's chat a little bit about that experience. So for the audience, the Cariboo Regional District had a late wildfire season kick. They had some earlier too, but and it got pretty spicy in September.
Yep.
And threatened multiple communities. And this was September 2025. So it resulted in some of the largest evacuations that they've had in this region in years, and was particularly threatening to several First Nations, including WLFN here. Williams Lake First Nation was under threat as well. So tell us a bit about your experience there.
I was lucky enough to get a request to come in and support our friends in the Cariboo Regional District's Emergency Operations Center, and luckily I got dropped into the operations section, and just really worked on supporting the boots on the ground in the evacuation efforts, standing at the evacuation branch coordinator, working and supporting the emergency support services team that was originally in Williams Lake, and then of course there was not enough capacity hotel-wise in Quesnel, 100 Mile, or Williams Lake, so a lot of the neighboring communities got sent to either Prince George or Kamloops, and supporting that, and then just working with BC Wildfire and being part of the team with the regional district. And it's funny, I called it going up to the big leagues. The regional district's EOC with the Cariboo Regional District has been around for a long time. They really are dialed in, and it was kind of a privilege to go and sit in that room and support them when we could.
Yeah, no, it was good having you there, and I mean, you're moderately good at your job, and we asked for you to come back again.
Fair to Midland, I like to call it. Yeah.
And,
fair to Midland.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement, Tim.
Always room for improvement, especially if you're named Paul.
Yes. That guy is.
We had lots of fun when we could to keep things going. So, but what surprised you this past summer?
Well, the fire behavior for one. We had incident commanders. We do briefings, and we're like, okay, we seem to be okay for the next couple of days, and we'd breathe a little bit and exhale, and the next morning we'd be getting calls for recommendations for evacuation orders. And the incident commander, you could tell on the team's call, they were surprised. I don't want to say rattled, but they were definitely surprised, almost shocked that the fires were doing what they were doing overnight and moving kilometers and causing risks and challenges. That was a little bit disconcerting to sit in that and think, well, it's going to be a bread and butter plain Jane wildfire, and no, it's running 17 kilometers at 10 o'clock in the evening, which is really unheard of.
Yeah, and particularly like we if you want to say it was calm weather conditions on some of those nights, as far as overall weather. Yeah,
the forecasts were going to be good. We're going to see precipitation, and then things would just change.
Yeah.
It was almost like somebody said, like the Q word, and Murphy's Law showed up and poked the bear, so to speak.
Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know the Q word, it will feel hopefully safe saying this in the middle of winter here, right?
I'm not going to say it.
It's the word that keeps everybody from saying anything. So since Paul doesn't want to say it, I won't say it.
I will spell it.
Will you?
I can try to spell it. Quiet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say it.
All right. Yep. And so where did you see the biggest challenges?
I think there was some assumptions based on past events, going from learnings from 2017, where roads would be closed and roads couldn't be closed. There's the challenges with that. And I think the challenges with even expenditure authorization requests, where you're assuming that we're extending an evacuation order area, and this first approval went through no problem, and we're waiting hours at times for this, basically a cookie cutter Control V EAF request, and it was getting stopped at government. Was really, really interesting. Some of the challenges with such a distant, remote community were a challenge. Coming in with that, and I say this a lot, you can't treat an Anaheim Lake, a Tatla Lake, a Puncie Lake the same as you would treat a Surrey or a Chilliwack or a Kelowna. That was a real challenge. The inability for provincial levels of government to see that difference and to be able to adapt. There was a little bit of siloing. Agencies and government departments got stuck in their own silos. And that would have been frustrating. It was frustrating working with the regional district trying to manage that.
Yeah.
The team building was great. The EOC staff was great. It was the policy that really we got stuck in that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a challenging area, and as things change, it changes sometimes the policy or the process that we go through, and then it makes it harder instead of easier. So I think it's an important message to get out there that we need to involve people that are ultimately on the ground making these decisions and part of these operations, for other levels of governments to involve people when they're building these things out. So to make sure there is an improvement there. So what else though? Like when you think about, this wasn't your first disaster, it wasn't your first run around the block, but what should people know when they walk into their first disaster?
Well, it's going to be different. Every call is different. Every EUC activation is different. You've got time, right? That's what I would suggest. Like, you have to make decisions in a timely fashion, but there's checklists and there's a process to follow, and you have more time than you think you'll have. And I don't like using Winston Churchill as an example because kind of was historically not the greatest person. But making a decision is better than waiting around for the perfect decision. Making a good decision is okay.
Yeah.
Making a decision that's the perfect decision by committee that's going to take 3 days is not okay. And it's going to change. You make a decision and you're going to have to pivot. Something's always going to happen. There's incidents within incidents within incidents. And that's a guaranteed. You can bet on that.
My usual stop to say hello. Waitik. I see you in Secwepemctsin. It's Waitik. To listeners and viewers in the country of Croatia, and over in Duncan, British Columbia, down in Orem, Utah, over in Liverpool, England, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and Warsaw, Poland. I keep saying it Poland. I'm just going to stick with that. It's Poland from now on. Thank you for finding us, and please, if you can share with just one person, it's the Canadian way. We are on all the podcast platforms, including AntennaPod, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Find us everywhere at communicationspodcast.com. Now, back to Chief McCarthy.
This summer, I was in the planning unit, either doing advanced planning or planning chief, and we were back and forth constantly, like literally every couple minutes, I think, especially when things were really spicy. And I think that's where that really came across, because it wasn't just you and I, but there's others in the room, the director and so on. We're getting together and it's like, okay, changed. The situation's changed.
Yeah.
What's our plan, right?
Yeah. There's another wrinkle.
Another wrinkle, exactly, right? So, and it's about quickly getting together. I can remember, I can't remember the particular, because everything just kind of fogs together after a while, but I remember us getting together, we made a decision, we broke, and then I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes later, everything that we had planned, gone.
Changed again.
And we had to, it was like, well, that was quick.
Yeah. And keeping in mind with the regional district being such a big area and everything was focused in the west, there's fires in the east too.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we should maybe talk to somebody about the ones on the other side of the regional district, because we don't know what's going on there, because all the attention was focused on the big event.
Yeah.
And we dodged a few bullets.
It was, absolutely. I remember us sitting there when we would have those lulls, and I say those lulls come in the EOC, funny enough, they come when you've got that big moment has happened, and then there's a lull right after it.
Yep.
While the prep's getting done, everything's getting ready, and for us that are in the leadership roles, there's a moment there where we can actually have a conversation.
Yep.
And I remember we would get together around the map a lot and start to look and theorize as to what we were up against. And I remember that, looking at that west versus east and looking at those sections and going, boy, if this weather comes over here, we're going to see a bit of a different situation here. Yeah. So, yeah.
And where we're going to put all the limited resources, thinking it's September, right?
Yeah.
We got really lucky with BC Wildfire having resources in the province. Yeah. If this was an August event, it would be a completely different event. But if you had another event in the province, it would change the landscape completely. Yeah. Overnight, not even overnight.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. I think I want to peel that one out a little bit, is that this was a very spicy September after really relatively calm summer in this region.
Eerily calm.
Yeah. And it meant that it, kind of thought towards the end of August, we can start to say, that time off that we thought maybe you can take it, right? Like you're approving time off for people and you're getting a little bit more relaxed, and then all hell broke loose really fast too. Like
right after the September long weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was immediate because I thought I was done. Yep. I was putting my stuff away and got a call and it's like, we might need you like tomorrow if you can start packing immediately. And I was like, you serious? And it did shift that quick. And I was indeed on the road the next morning. So, can you talk a little bit about that effect as an overall when we have, because that is it. That was it. This last year was a very unique season in that way.
It was really interesting because we were on a conference call before the long weekend and the outlook wasn't grim, wasn't dire. It was like, but hey, like, we know it's a long weekend, but if something comes up, please pick your phone up for BC Wildfire. And I was like, okay, cool. It doesn't sound terrible, but they were expecting, precipitation levels to kind of come back overnight. And I'm like, oh, that's really good news. Maybe I'll put my phone on vibrate. Won't have it on the ringer. And I got a text from the regional district and I said, yeah, I'm around. I'm totally willing to help out. Because they had time off approved, and I think maybe a wedding or two, like silly people getting married. And we came in, and I was like, I expected it to have a couple of flash ups, and then be like, we're calm after this, and then the next thing you know, we're having high level operational evacuation plans, and if we're going to evacuate that area, we're going to do it in one shot. We're not going to do it over several days, and next thing you know, we're sending 1,500 plus people out of the Chilcotin. Yeah.
The conditions in September were, I guess best way to put it, like kind of that late spring condition almost is what I kind of sensed. It was dried out. We had starting to get the winds present, showing up, getting that overnight cooling, but it wasn't affecting fires at all, really.
No.
And so it was very, very odd, and then at the same time, extremely dry, like very, very drought.
And the precipitation kept disappearing.
Yeah.
We're going to get precip tomorrow, and it would be gone. And then it was like, one of the fire weather experts is like, the big fire's eating all the clouds. And you're like, say what again?
Yeah.
The big fire is eating all the clouds. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Right? And thinking like, it's September.
Yeah.
We should be like chilling here.
Yeah.
Like it's the year, September will be after action review time, and we didn't do after action reviews until November.
Yeah. Yeah, and just uber challenging. Like the winds were bad. You had a fire here on the nation land that was so close to being much worse because of that wind, right? Like it was just a howling wind that day.
So that was an interesting pivot. I got 2 days off out of the EOC because we had a fire adjacent to St. Joseph's Mission, and the winds picked up like I haven't seen it pick up. It was just perfect conditions, and we got, once again, very lucky with resources. We called for the right resources early, and they were able to put a bomber line down, because if they hadn't, I don't know where that fire would have stopped.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I fully agree. Because I mean, like, you were on your way there and you got me to run you a weather. Yeah. And I didn't have good things to tell you.
No.
It was pretty brutal. And when I got out, I was able to get out here on scene that night. And it was spooky. I got to say, when I came around the corner, I did not like what I saw. And because the cloud was just, the smoke off of the fire was just straight. Yep. It was falling right along the edge of the field, right down low.
Right up the valley, just like
right up the valley. Yep. And man, you just don't want to see that when you're pulling into a fire. No. I think I got here around 7 or something like that. So yeah, it was early evening, and it should have been not doing that at all.
No, we had 3 barns, and we showed up on scene, and one of the property reps, or I don't know if it was a property rep or a worker for the property rep, was like, "You've got to save that barn." I was like, "We're not stopping it at that barn. We're going to try to save the other 2. That barn's gone." And the look on his face was like, the fire's not there yet, but it was going. Yeah. And the conditions were just perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, they really were. That day was like, because I remember us talking about it that morning. It was like, we can't have a fire today through this whole section. And what do we get? We got one up just north of the city. Yep. And then this one I think they were within an hour of each other, if I remember right.
Yeah. And so it's our fault. We poked the bear. Yeah. Almost as bad as saying the Q word.
Right. It was. Yeah, we kind of did pay for that one. I think we did confide in each other standing in the black that night. So, so there's been some awesome advances in First Nations emergency management in recent years, and the fire service. So can you highlight some that you've been part of and those that you admire?
Looking back, I was able to work I've had my fingers in emergency management, some type of emergency management this is my 34th year in fire service. In 2010, 2008, 2010, I can't remember the time, First Nations were evacuated, and there was no consultation. We wouldn't have First Nations leadership in the emergency operations center I worked at. We'd have, at that time, it was called INAC, and they'd come in and speak on behalf of the nations. And I remember thinking, this is very strange. And there was elders who wouldn't evacuate this one community, and INAC was insistent that we sent a team with BC Wildfire and police to evacuate these elders. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if they don't want to go, we can't legally make them. And how do we know what's best? And lo and behold, sent a convoy out there, and they were politely told to turn around and go back where they came from. They had everything they needed, and the community was kind of isolated and doing its own thing. Trying to work on traditional foods and cultural supports, non-existent at that time. And then moving into 2017, where I had less of a say in the emergency operations center, more of an incident commander role, engaging with WLFN. And once again, that connection was just missing. Mm-hmm. It was better, but it wasn't great. And I think from an emergency support services perspective, there was a lot of really big challenges with how long people were out, the lack of support for First Nations. And now you turn around and you get, my role before here, there's agreements. There's an Emergency Disaster and Management Act that has a duty to consult. Yeah. First Nations are now at the table and part of that decision-making piece. It's not just, well, we'll fly the helicopter over and be like, well, you're on your own letterbuck. Hopefully somebody from the feds calls you. The landslide was a really good example of collaboration. Mm-hmm. I think a really incredible time was having a WLFN. We had numerous WLFN staff members working for the Cariboo Regional District's event and supporting not only other First Nations, but everyone impacted by that.
Yeah.
So that was really refreshing to see in 2 decades.
And it's, I've talked a lot about it. It's come a very long way, very fast. And to have that representation in the EOC it just means so much, right? Like, it's just so, for all of us that have been there, we've said it's just been an incredible experience because there's so much extra knowledge being added in that we did not have. And now we have it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think looking back at 17, if that knowledge was in the room, the responses would have been different.
Yeah.
The outcomes could have potentially been different.
Yeah.
And, there's been huge pivots across all government agencies now, recognizing that and moving forward. And it goes back to that spirit of Knucwentwecw,
Yeah.
which is, wholeheartedly what I believe we have to focus on.
So the fire service is always shifting. What are things on the horizon for the audience to be aware of?
Oh, fire service meaning response, on the response lens.
Yeah.
Well, my other role, the other hat I wear, I'm the fire chief for 150 Mile House. I think the preventative side has got to get better. Fire Smart wasn't a thing in 2000 and I think it was 2008. It was red rock, green rock. If the house was savable, they'd spray red or green rock and put it at the driveway, and then it was red rock for not going down. And now it's, there's wildfire protection zones, there's community wildfire resilience plans, there's Fire Smart technicians, there's Fire Smart coordinators on the landscape. There's the ability to have situational awareness now. There's structure protection units. You looked at what we had out west, structure fire departments here, there, and everywhere putting sprinkler protection on units. 2017, that was just the start of that. 2010 wasn't really there. 2003, I had the chance to be boots on the ground in 2003 in Kelowna, so it really had the lens where you've seen it change.
Yeah.
In 2017, they started using drones for night flighting and checking out for hotspots and really engaging structure firefighters with that situational awareness and sharing incident action plans. And you've seen that evolve now where you've got the engine boss course for structural firefighters to be involved in that structure fire wild urban interface kind of lens.
Yeah.
The River Valley was a really good example of that. The Williams Lake River Valley fire in 2024. Once again, resource rich. They had bombers on that right away. You had Office of the Fire Commissioner send other departments into Williams Lake. Our department was there, and just the ability to expand and really buy into that unified command and that incident command model is definitely seeing that's bearing a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
And the technology, the drones, the thermal imaging cameras, the situational awareness you can have, even apps like Windy.
Yeah.
The landscape has really changed. Knowledge is at your fingertips and knowledge becomes power.
Mental well-being is something we all have a responsibility to ourselves to be aware of and to look for ways to improve through intentional actions, such as getting outside or seeking professional help. As a responder, consider taking mental health first aid, which has been very important for the work I do, interacting with people during large emergencies, from residents to responders. If you are in urgent need of help in Canada, dial or text 988. You deserve to be heard. They are there to listen. It is a safe spot to talk 24 hours a day, every day of the year.
I think I actually sent you a video of the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
great.
It was not, that was what you did. And it was like, when you first showed up on scene, it was like, oh no, we're in, this is not a good situation. So
The kakapupu time.
Indeed. I would say that you and I did a pretty good job of keeping the EOC laughing a little bit this summer.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially being that it was honestly, it was probably for those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it was probably one of the more intense 2 to 3 weeks I've had in a few years, because of the speed at which we were running and just the complexity of everything. And so, I, I did definitely ramp up the humor. You were in there. There was others, but talk to me a little bit about it and what your thoughts on how important humor is in those moments, not only in the EOC but in the fire service too.
So you can go down. You don't want to go down the dark, gloomy, dark humor road. You want to keep everything light, and we're working long hours.
Yeah.
And you think you're leaving at 4:00, and then the EOC director at one time said the Q word, and we were there until like 11:30 that evening. Yeah. It's keeping people those are long days. It's a stuffy room.
Yeah.
It's, you don't know what's going to happen. Just kind of keep spirits light and get that energy up. And not, what I've learned over the years is not to pick on people. I try to, use self-deprecating humor, or I think one of the big fun ones was I had these Boost mushroom packs, cordyceps mushrooms, all these things, and you just stick them in your lip and you get an energy. So the big thing was, well, Paul's on mushrooms. Try some of Paul's mushrooms. And we, leaned into that. I'm like, do you want some mushrooms? And, green apple boosts were going around, like, everyone was trying them. And things like that, just keeping it light, finding nicknames for people. Like, somebody had the last name Campbell, so she got turned into Soupy, which I don't think she appreciated, but you can kind of read the room a little bit too. Like, you're not trying to single people out. You're just trying to make the situation less heavy. Yeah. Right. So you can go home and, you've kind of got that vent going. Same with the fire service. You get in a truck and you're on a way to a call, and I'll say something like, hey, let's go make somebody's bad day a little bit better. We're not there to save the world and change it. Let's even just showing up is enough. And there's this I've kind of taken this on. You can take it from an emergency operations perspective and a fire service perspective. You hear, well, it's not our emergency, and people can really get sour and crass and go down that dark road. And I say, yeah, it's not our emergency. It's our emergency response. Yeah. And we have a duty to make it better for somebody else. We're here to just do our best job. And sometimes when there's lulls, you can laugh a little bit. And 2017, we were there on the fire. Our firefighters thought they were losing their own homes. We had four families, little new babies, and they're gone. Their babies are in Alberta, and they're staying here. Yeah. And the crew was really good about keeping their spirits light and taking the time. And I remember I asked one guy, I said, how are you doing? And, he got that sarcastic, well, I'm great. I'm addicted to chew again, and I've got gangrene in my foot. But just the way he said it was hilarious and just lightened that entire mood. And, picked on leadership. And sometimes I was like, he came up to me afterwards. He's like, is this okay? I'm like, keep it up. You're keeping morale up. You're, making it fun for the crew and picking on the white shirts is the way to go. Yeah. Right. And punch up. Don't punch down on anybody. And he did a really good job of holding everyone up. And going into an EOC, it's a little bit different. Or you tell a story, or you find something funny, or, I think the regional district has a secret squirrel room. So that became a joke unto itself, or there's somebody who came in and was like, better make sure you leave cheesies out. If the cheesies weren't there for this individual, you're going to have hell to pay. Those are not your cheesies. Things like that, really just keep that situation light. And then, a couple of times just going for a walk around the block. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's, we were back and forth a lot, lots of opportunities wherever they were between the two of us to pop out a little humor here and there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we self-deprecating, but we were definitely deprecating each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing who you can take it to, right? And that's a really big thing. Yeah. Knowing when you're going to pick on somebody in the right way. Yes. And definitely, and knowing when people are a little bit frazzled and not to pick on them too. Yeah. And maybe that time it's a cup full of M&Ms and a Sprite. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I do find humor it has its spot, but it's a very interesting thing in my time with EOCs, and you've got this down, and I watched you do it a bunch of times. It's like when that tension is just right at that point where that bubble is going to burst, perfect spot for humor.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. It's right there, but you have to be careful. It is a dance.
Yeah, and you have to be sure you're not being seen as attacking someone, and that's a real challenge. Yeah. It has blown up in my face from time to time. Yeah. Hasn't ended well a few times.
Well, Paul has learned the value of the mute button, I think it is, right? Is that right?
No, I've learned that there is a mute button. Sometimes just I don't know when to use it exactly now. But there is a button.
There is a button.
Apparently, I don't know. Right.
So, yeah. One morning in the EOC, I'm not sure if you were there for this or not, but we were going around the table doing our updates from each of the sections, and it came around and there was a lot of tension in the room. That was one of our late night call-ins after we were supposedly done for the day. So we had done 2 days the day before, and we were launching into what was looking like another 2-day affair in a single day. And I could sense right away when I got in the room that morning that everybody was kind of just done with the day already, right? Like, so I was like, all right, I can't have this. We got to change this. So we were going around and I was waiting until somebody said the word fire. That's all it took. That was my trigger word. And as soon as somebody said fire, I was like, what? Did you say there's a fire? Where? Here? Yeah. And they're like, looked at me really stupid and they went, yeah. And then I just got up and went, ran around the room, and then ran out the door, and you could see out in the street, and I ran down the street.
I missed that day.
Yeah. And it was interesting. After a week later, we were out for supper, a bunch of us, and that moment came up, and we were talking about something else, and they said, "Why did you do that?" And I told them, I was like, it was to break the tension. Everybody was going to kill everybody that day. I could see that. Yeah. And I knew, though, that we were a good team. Yeah. We just needed to realize that we were. Yeah. And so it was just to bring us back to our humanness, right? Yeah. Like to cut it down. And so you're a magician at that. Yeah, you weren't.
I just like an audience, Tim. Fair to Midland. I had a captive audience. People were being paid to be there.
That's true.
Well, I got to talk to an audience that couldn't leave. It was great.
Yeah. He's got a face that's really hard at getting an audience, so he really likes it when
I had a captive audience. Lock the door and tell knock-knock jokes now.
Well, excellent. So next up, I got 3 questions that I posed to every guest. So We're going to roll through them. What is one book, documentary, or resource that you recommend for those learning about crisis, emergency management, or firefighting?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a trilogy in 4 parts. It's the first thing that popped in my head. It's my favorite book of all time. Anything by Jocko Willink, seriously.
Okay.
Extreme Leadership, Dichotomy of Leadership.
Yeah.
Really like Jocko's stuff. Dan Crenshaw wrote a really good book called Fortitude, and he had some great nuggets in that. Be Silent in Chaos is a really good tidbit that I took out of that one.
Yeah, and it's a good point. We just talked about being humorous and funny in those moments, but there's an awful lot of silence too, right? Like it's incredible at times when particularly this EOC. I think I bragged to a lot of people about it. This EOC is humming, and it's quiet as could be.
Yeah, and like moving along.
Yeah,
and that's just hands up to the leadership in that in that department who have invested in their staff and really got a process that just clicks.
Yeah. That's the other side too. They're bringing in people like yourself from other organizations, and it's all part of the team. We're all one team. So what advice could you offer information officers or communicators managing crisis, emergencies, and what would help them to perform their job more effectively?
That's a good question. Focus on the whole event. We get called, injury focused, and try to get into that 50,000 foot mental drone and look at the big picture when you're telling the story. Not just the fires, but where the people are, what's going to happen to, the big story this year was agriculture and hay. Some of that event is like people are really, really concerned about their hay crops.
Yeah.
They've got $200,000 of hay crop and a $10,000 structure. Yeah. And they're putting sprinklers on the structure.
Yeah.
I think that story would really be important because it would help other regional districts and authorities understand maybe you need to just shift a little bit. And so some of those stories and hold the winds up for, hold other organizations up, like BC Wildfire has their black belt in incident command. Like they're an incredible organization. So I think share some of those wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you maintain your mental well-being during the most intense moments of a response?
I don't know what mental well-being is, Tim. I don't know. Can we cuss on this podcast?
Sure, go ahead.
So really gnarly calls, really bad calls, really bad EOC calls, or everything's dark and gray and gloomy. I tell myself, everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit.
Yeah.
And this is gangster shit. So you signed up for it. Take a breath, make the next step.
It's you really do, you have to compartmentalize some things in those moments, but yeah.
You compartmentalize them in the moment,
Yeah.
but deal with them holistically afterwards. You know, whether it's stretching to get the tension out of your body, going for a mountain bike ride, doing something to change your mind off. Like I got a couple of breaks in September, I came back 100% recharged, ready to go. I wouldn't have done that 7 years ago. I'm like, no, we're burning myself out until I can't see. My eyes are red and I'm shaking. Then it might be time to be told to go. No, we've got this. The team's really good. Trust your team and just trust when your limits are.
So, and you know, the other side is like you always want to have someone that you trust enough that when you do something for them, so that you'll get something in return. So Paul was nice enough. I had a terribly stiff neck the one day, and Paul could see it right away, and he came over and offered to give me a massage, and I accepted because I'm fully open to that. And you massaged me in front of everybody in the EOC that day.
You didn't have to take your pants off, but
it was a little odd, but
yeah,
you know,
strange.
it happens, and you know, you've got to feel comfortable, and you know, you got a neck kiss out of it after because that's how we talk.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I didn't have any money.
You know what? You could have e-transferred me after. Well, I'll take what I get. You know, any port in a storm, Tim.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I appreciate you joining me on the Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast. And on that note...
Oh, you could have shaved. I'm going to shower now.
I get to work alongside some pretty great people, and Paul has met them too. We compete for who gets the last dig, and I win on this round. Working with Paul has been a great experience. He understands the balance between regulation and reality, and we all have to do that juggle. He knows how to work together with everyone to achieve results. And he sees the current and the future, and he plans for both at the same time. And he has that bitter honesty many of us love to see in leadership, who can call it like it is with a punchline at the end. He can bounce between bitter reality and laughter in the moment, and it's awesome to have. If you want to learn more about Chief McCarthy, you can contact him. Just like all of our other guests, you can find this on our website in the show notes. Pop over to www.communicationspodcast.com. And thanks for being on the show, Paul. Keep my parking spot in front of the hydrant open, would you? If you like this episode, check out episode 17, Is It Trash or Truth? With California Battalion Chief Pete Jensen. The Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast is a production of Butterfly Effect Communications, copyright 2026. Goodbye. Hear me later.